Hello, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Waynesboro Area School District Board of Directors for September 22nd, 2020. Today with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Ms. Cooper, a couple people on the phone or on Zoom, so we could do roll call, please.
Yes. Mrs. Bakel?
Here.
Right. Mr. McDonald?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Oliver?
Are you there, Mrs. Sullivan?
I am here. I just can't hear. I can hear you. So as long as I can hear you, I'm okay.
Okay.
There is wind coming through a microphone somewhere. I'm not sure if those that are remote, if you could mute your microphone when you are not speaking.
It may be me because I'm in Houston in the middle of a tropical storm, so I will do so.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Here.
And Mrs. Herron?
Here. Before we get to our business tonight, we want to take a moment in memory of one of our students who unfortunately passed away on Saturday. That would be Paul Rogers, student at Summit View. So if you would take a minute with me to remember Paul and thank you very much. Okay, our next item then is the agenda, and we do have a couple changes to the agenda, which just logistics, so Judge Rock can hit the road a little earlier. So what we're going to do is, if everybody's okay with it, we're going to take the interview with Mrs. Miles and the assumed swearing in after that. So that will become after number 5. So that will be 6 and 7. Then we'll have public comment. Then we'll go to the superintendent's report. If that's okay with everyone. Is that all? Oh, and well, and we're also going to have another presentation, number 2, where Dr. Sterner-Hein is going to give us a report after Dr. McCallum. Everybody followed all that. Is everybody good with that? If I could have a motion to go with those changes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, if everybody's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Need something, Mr. Erickson? Okay. Okay, any issues with the minutes from our last meeting? If not, do we have, or you can bring up whatever the problem is, or do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, then we have the minutes from the special meeting that we held on, was it a week ago Monday? Okay, a week
Yes.
ago Monday, whatever that date was. So can we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, that leads us then to our talking to Ms. Kim Miles, who has Mrs. Kim Miles, sorry, who has applied for the vacancy, the seat from the North area. And so she has to go through the formality of an interview, and any of us can ask questions. Dr. Klein will ask you 1 or 2 simple questions to begin with, and then we'll open it up for any questions anyone else has.
Just to ask a couple questions to verify, and you alluded to these earlier, but are you 18 or older? See, we like to start out making you feel pretty good. And then, have you been convicted of any felonies?
No.
Okay. And have you lived in the school district for 6 months or more?
My whole life.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Apologies. Can we have her stand at the microphone, please?
Oh, okay. Okay, so that opens it up to I think we've all read her application. If anyone has any further questions, now's the time to ask Mrs. Miles. I would just say that even though you put this on the application, if you could just say again why you feel like you would like to serve on the school board.
I've actually thought about it for many years, but I was an employee of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for the last 10 years, and that prohibits. So I retired July 17th. This came up a week or so ago. My daughter said, "Mom, you should do this." And I thought about it, and because I had considered it in the past, I decided it was something I wanted to do. I graduated from Waynesboro Senior High School. My 3 children all went to the school district schools, and I have 2 grandchildren in school right now, middle school and elementary. So the course of education in Waynesboro and how things are get done, it's very important to me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to ask? Okay, if not, then I guess I'm giving it back to you, Dr. Klein.
Yeah, I think at this point, then, if at this time, you could probably do the approval of the board member.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then, give me a motion, please, to approve Kim Miles becoming our board representative from the North area, replacing Beth Reeker.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay,
Welcome.
congratulations.
Thank you.
And welcome.
I think the next swearing in,
Yes. Where do I go for this?
you could do it right out front here.
I am going to ask you to pull your mask down so I can hear you and see you.
It's tricky with the earrings.
Yeah. And I believe that I might have the name spelled wrong. How do you spell your last name?
MILES.
Okay, I got it right. I was watching the board and that had a different spelling. So I
Oh,
thought,
okay, it's MI.
Okay, so raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
Kim Miles,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
And
I
I,
get teary-eyed, sorry.
and I will discharge my duties
And I will discharge my duties
of Waynesboro School Board
of Waynesboro School Board
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
So
Wait for the signing.
I usually use Kimberly, so I guess I'll sign it Kimberly, but I much prefer Kim.
Okay.
My mother calls me.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess you're leaving that with us. Somebody will run one for you. Thanks. Thank you for coming in, Judge
Thank
Rock.
you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you
Yes.
were, please
Join
take a
us.
seat next to Mrs. Bakewell for tonight. And again, welcome. We'd shake your hand, but we know we're not doing that. We're not doing that these days, so, okay. All right, moving on then. The next item will be public comment. Would anyone like to speak tonight on anything? If you would like to come up, please give your name, your address, and try to limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Grace Baker, and I come tonight to, my address is 300 Frigg Avenue. And I come here tonight to talk to you all about the virtual Wednesdays in the high school. I'm a junior, and I and one of my other students, Isaac Motes, we sent out a survey to our fellow students and the faculty asking what they thought of the virtual Wednesdays, because Isaac and I personally felt like the Wednesdays gave us a break in the middle of the week that was very well needed because we both take a lot of advanced classes, and we felt like having the break in the middle of the week allowed us to not only cement the information that we had learned the prior 2 days, but really have a more balanced workload throughout the week. So from the student survey that we conducted, we also had a question that asked how much the students valued their education, because we felt like we really wanted to gauge the importance of the Wednesdays on the education, not just, oh, I wanted a break from the school. And from that, 98.5% of the 130 responses we got said that they valued their education a 3 or higher on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most. Also from that survey, we had a question asking whether the students felt that we should keep the virtual Wednesdays, and 84.3% thought that we should keep them because it not only helps us balance our workload, but gives us a much needed break in these rather challenging times. From the teacher survey we conducted, the 15 responses we got, 80% of the teachers felt like the Wednesdays were beneficial to their students' education, and that 80% also felt that it had a positive impact, allowing for a break. And one response we also got from the teacher was that they felt that it was helping students adapt to the virtual learning that is now becoming more integrated into American education. And finally, from the teachers, 86.7% of the 15 responses we got from them thought that we should keep virtual Wednesdays in the high school.
Okay, thank you very much. I always appreciate it, and I think we all do when students come in, so we appreciate your opinion on that. I'll ask Dr. Klein when he gets to the superintendent report to address that a little bit for you. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak tonight? Okay, if not, then we will go to Dr. Klein's superintendent report for this evening.
Okay, well, I'll start out just letting everybody know that so far, we've had one positive case of COVID-19, 2 total in the district, but 1 at the middle school and 1 at the high school, both with our work through the Department of Health. Both people had contracted the virus outside of the district, so that's a very important fact to keep in mind. So, we're into 4 weeks. We'll be at the end of the week. We'll have 4 weeks in. So far so good. And it took a lot of courage for us to open up like we have. And I credit Dr. Sternerheim, our administrators, for helping to make it work, and our staff for helping to make what we're doing work. We did plan to have the virtual Wednesdays for the first month. Now, according to our plan that was approved by the state, only has the Wednesdays for September. According to that plan that was sent to the state, we returned back to 5 days a week in October. However, we did put in the plan that we would be reviewing those. At this time, we're recommending that we continue, or that we go to Wednesdays 5 day a week. And it has to be approved. If it would get changed, it would have to be approved by the state, and that would take a little while. Even if we decide tonight for the board, it could take a week or 2 till the state gets back to us. However, we want to watch and look at the success rate as we move along. There is some belief that the kids being in school 5 days a week is actually safer. But at this point, we felt like those Wednesdays have been very successful and have been very helpful to preparing us to being online if we have to move that way. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on into board initiatives, and we are at board reports. And I know we have at least 2 different committees that would like to report tonight.
Sure. Policy committee met about a week ago. And we talked about a handful of topics. Policy on drug searches with dogs in the building and out of the building. Open enrollment assignments within the district. Believe it or not, we talked about head lice policy, which seems to be changing, right, Bonnie?
Yes.
Yeah, we weren't happy about that. We talked quite a bit about live streaming, our video policy, and about therapy dogs. We passed a couple things on for first reading and some other things we're going to touch base next time. That's what policy committee covered.
And there's some second readings that we'll be voting on today.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Facilities.
Facilities met last evening, and we covered quite a few topics, but there's two in particular I want to bring to your attention. We were approached by representatives of the boosters for the girls softball teams, and they would like to make improvements to their field and stadium area to include bringing in some stadium seating. They would like to make improvements and repairs to the dugouts, and then also including they would like to have a concession stand in their area. So we met with them last night. All of these plans are preliminary. We appreciate the fact that they came to us early on and are including us in their information. They are at a fundraising stage, and so we just advised them to go through the proper processes for fundraising, connecting, and really going back through, I think, Mr. McElwain, I think, for some of that direction. So just early on, just wanted to make sure that we were keeping everybody apprised of that. We were also, there was a request sent to us regarding, I believe, from the girls field hockey team. And if I understand correctly, they play their games at the stadium, but that's not their practice area. So they would like to provide and have a shed where they would be able to store their goalie equipment and some other equipment instead of hauling it back and forth for their games. No district funds, I should point this out, no district funds are going to be used for the field hockey shed, and let me just reinforce, no district funds are going to be used for the girls softball improvements either. The boosters are taking care of that. But anyway, we would like to come and just make you aware of the fact that they're very interested in getting a shed. And the placement of that, I believe, is behind or to the opposite end at the stadium of the newer concession stand. So kind of back behind that area is where they would be placing that. So we wanted to make you aware of both of those issues.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for any reports or anything? Okay, then we'll move on to our presentations. First one will be Dr. McCallum.
I thought I was going to be fancy with my tablet and it logged me out. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. This is the third time I've had the privilege to share updates from the District Communication Committee with everybody. So go ahead, next slide. Looking at our leadership framework, we have been continuing to balance and investigate what the stakeholder needs are by doing a communication survey of our families as well as our staff members every spring. And this past spring was the third time that we did that. We have used the results of that survey to communicate out to the greater school district, develop some plans for implementation, and then we've also been using the survey then to measure how things are going. So if we want to look at the next slide. So I think that a good celebration is that we have a committee in place for this. We started in 2018. I chair that committee and ask people to give us a 1 school year commitment. So if anybody is here and would like to be part of that committee, we're going to be setting up our first meeting for the middle of October. We have representatives of the district staff, paraeducators, as well as families and community members. One of the things that we have been working on is consistency in our communications. So we have developed and continue to utilize scripts. So if you call a district staff member, you are likely to hear a very similar outgoing voicemail, communicating when a staff member calls a family, that we're saying the same thing when we're leaving a message and things like that. And then we've also provided a lot of consultation to Dr. Klein and to the board on suggestions to communicate, as well as potential new initiatives such as getting a new website. So the first round of survey results I want to go over is from the parent guardian survey. We deployed this in the middle of February. We had 171 respondents. I made the executive decision with Dr. Klein's approval to not send a reminder about this survey because it would have come when schools were closed. And I felt that our communications about COVID might have kind of skewed the general information about communications, but that's still a strong response compared to, we've usually been around our 120 responses since then. So go ahead. All right, so the way that the survey is set up, you can select more than one building and just complete the survey one time, and it will tabulate the data across. So if you add up all of the different schools, you'll come up with a number greater than 171, and that's because some families have more than one child in the school. Go ahead. So we have now been giving the survey enough times that we have some data to compare. So I know that the numbers are hard to read. We had a really good improvement in 2019 in terms of how people feel the district is doing communicating with the public. And then it went down a little bit this past school year. So I'm not sure if it's statistically significant. I'm a little bit far out from doing that kind of work in my doctoral studies, but I still think anytime we're getting close to 70%, it's good. All right, and then the next slide is talking about your child's school. So you can see here that we had a good increase again in 2019, and I would say that 76% to 73% is probably holding steady, knowing that we had more responses this past year. You'll also notice that that yellow pie piece is people who are unsure. So I'm not sure why you'd be unsure, but that's up to the response person. All right, so then the next slide. So this is an internal validation that I have. There is a question on the family survey that asks, if you contacted your child's teacher via phone or email within the past year, how often did the teacher respond within 24 hours? So you can see that we're very consistent, around 75, 77% of families saying that, yes, I do get a response within 24 hours. The smaller one off to the right is what the teachers are reporting. So in the past, it's been a closer alignment. This past year, I think we're around 85% of the teachers are saying that. I will say one of the things that's come up in the communication survey, or with the committee rather, is the teachers I feel like are doing an excellent job of communicating with families, but sometimes we're not getting responses back. So we're not sure if the family is getting the email message and just doesn't feel the need to respond to it. So sometimes that's a point of frustration that they're sending emails, trying to make phone calls, not exactly sure if the family is getting the message. All right, so the next couple here, I'm going to zip through a little bit. We asked the similar set of questions about the district as well as with the school. So the summary on this slide is that families continue to want to receive weekly communication. The one thing that I wanted to share through a board initiative of getting the administrator some professional development, had the opportunity to work with a mentor, and it was recommended I read a book called Fierce Conversations. And in that book, there's 3 different ideas when it comes to communicating. And one of them is all conversations are with myself, and sometimes they involve other people. So I think that's one of the things that applies with this. We can put out a lot of communications, but unless someone else is reading them, it's not really a conversation. So I think as we continue to move forward with communication, we want to be strategic about what we're putting out, but we also don't want to be putting out so much that people are fatigued from reading things about the district. All right, and then this is how would you prefer to get communication? So Borough Blast is a new feature that we launched, I believe, about 18 months ago. That also came from feedback from the communications team. One of the things that I've been personally trying out at some of you this year is I'm not recording, this is Diane McCallum with 6 informational messages. Instead, I've been typing it all out in the email. And then some of the messages I haven't even sent a voice message at all. Others I've just said, check your email for 6 informational messages. We've been getting good response about that. So I'm definitely going to be suggesting that to the other administrators when we meet coming up. All right, so then moving on to, I changed the order of this, whoever is clicking. So I'm going to talk about our opportunities for improvement at the end. So moving on to our staff survey. A colleague showed me that Google has a new feature where you can schedule an email to send. So when I sent the initial survey email to the staff about the communication survey, I went ahead and also drafted the reminder email and scheduled it to send. So it was sent out when schools were closed. And I do believe this was the 2 weeks where we were providing PD and things like that. So I think we got a very strong staff survey because they weren't, going so many different directions having children in the building. So 340 respondents, that's nearly double as many as we've ever had, which is awesome. So on the next slide, you'll see, what do I do for the district? So predominantly we had our professional staff members replying rather. And then down below you see the buildings that are included. All right, so on this slide, we basically have a summary of some key points when it comes to the staff survey. So looking under 2020, the first 3 bullet points relate to communications from the district, and then the lower 2 bullet points have to do with communications from the school administration. So you can see that we're back to where we were in 2018. The staff is very satisfied with what communications are coming from the district, and a really nice improvement in terms of staff members feeling like they have the ability to communicate openly with their building administrators and thinking that the staff is doing the administration is doing a good job communicating with them. So then on the next slide, continue to really want to have email as a point of communication. I know since schools have been closed, the email has been like overwhelming. So we've also been trying to work on some other electronic means. I know some of us are keeping Google Classrooms for our staff just to kind of organize everything. I know there's times where I think to myself, I know Dr. Sterner-Hines sent this to me, but I'm not exactly sure what she called the message. So sometimes it's hard to filter through all those things. So that's definitely something I want to work on with the communications team in terms of helping the staff. Collaboration with colleagues continues to be really strong. And I think that's helpful, especially just to maintain relationships among peers. All right, so then this is the opportunities for improvement. This is the opportunities improvement for staff members. One of the things that the committee has suggested, which now that I'm out of the secondary world, I'm not necessarily up on, guidelines for students emailing staff members. Sometimes emails are sent at odd hours of the day. The staff members feel an expectation to respond regardless of what time that message comes out. So for example, if we made some type of a short communication to families, our teachers are available at this time. Some teachers are willing to make themselves available up until this time, but it's a choice. Then people would know, say after 9 o'clock, feel free to send an email, but you're absolutely not going to respond. We suggested having some new questions added to the survey. We've tried to keep the survey pretty consistent so that we could compare the data from year to year. Because there's definitely a desire to inquire about the visibility of administrators out in the building. Looking to ensure that there's consistent communication among groups of people. There seemed to be a little bit of a theme in some buildings where this group of people might get a message one way, another group of people might get a different message depending on who they talk to. And then there continues to be a desire for the support staff to have a voice. And just speaking at the elementary level, it's really hard when they all have very, very different schedules. My support staff either come in at 8, 8:30, or 9. So to have a meeting at 8 o'clock, I have some people that's part of their workday, and I have other people that would have to come in an hour early. That's not always possible because of their personal schedules. And then, are you running this or is Nick running this? So Mr. Erickson, if you could go back for me. Thank you for being flexible. And then this is our opportunities for improvement for the coming from the families. So there was some suggestions on how to solicit feedback from families to improve the website. I feel like we finally settled down on complaining about the athletic section. People seem to understand how to access the athletic website now, which is great. Looking for recommendations for the building principals to maintain their websites. And then there continues to be frustrations with the Sapphire Community Web Portal. As a parent of children in 2 different schools, you get this email and it just says there's a notification for a child enrolled in this building. I don't know if it's, you know, today was school picture day for the middle school, or if it's something about Spirit Day, or if it's an attendance letter. And we've talked to Sapphire a lot about that, how to improve that, because logging into Sapphire is complicated and things like that. So those are kind of the things that we're going to be working on. There seems to be a desire to, again, have a district level conversation about purchasing something like Remind. That came up at the policy committee last week. Obviously, that's something that comes at a cost. Right now, we have different staff members using different things because we don't have a platform that's consistent. There's definitely pros and cons to each platform, but if you're a family that has a child at a couple different levels, it's possible that you're having to use 3 or 4 different apps because of what your child's teacher has provided. I also included, and will not go over, it's on, I saw that Mrs. Kuzer put it on the board docs site, the comments from the survey. So what I do when the survey is done, these surveys are anonymous. I pull down all the data into an Excel spreadsheet, and then I kind of try to sort through and put them into categories. So there's no way that you could figure out who said what based on what I put together. I will acknowledge that there was a couple comments on both surveys that had to do with a staff member. This was an anonymous survey. So what I did was I shared those comments directly with Dr. Sternerheim and did not include them in the summary that I have provided. So I usually talk long, and I know nobody wants to do that. So I am keeping it short, and I'm open to answer questions. If not, I thank you for the opportunity to share our results. I don't currently have a board member on the communications committee, so if anybody would be interested, we're probably going to do all virtual this year. So that's nice. You can be at your house. You don't have to come to school. We normally meet around 3:45.
Questions for Dr. McCallum?
I will say, Dr. McCown, thank you for doing this.
Sure.
It's very difficult putting this out, you know, because, you know, we're opening ourselves up for a lot of criticism and just, you know, people have an opportunity to be very honest. So I appreciate you doing that. It you know, it gives us a way to, you know, for our OFEs to our opportunities for improvement. It gives us a chance to go from there. And I think what I've seen her committee do is help us make some progress. We know it hasn't moved the needle too much, but I do believe that, you know, parents know that we're trying.
Absolutely. I did want to also point out, I did not edit any of the comments. So if there's grammatical errors, that is not my wheelhouse. So I wouldn't even try to get started on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Sternerheim.
Okay, Nick, are you going to be able to bring up my presentation? Yep, maybe. So I just wanted to follow up, although this has to do not necessarily with communication of the district, but it was the communication that I did today with the Rotary Club. I know last year our first choice core team had the opportunity to, I believe it was in person at the Rotary. And today I did a virtual meeting with the Rotary, and I thought it was important just to share with the Rotary, with the board, essentially the couple slides that I shared with the Rotary. Dr. Klein had asked me to talk about the first choice learning networks. And basically research shows that school closures this past spring disproportionately affected the most vulnerable students, widening disparities in achievement. Based on that information, how did WASD respond? Going back to last spring, Franklin County, we were the only school in Franklin County that provided planned instruction for K-12 in the spring of 2020. We conducted several learner and family surveys. We moved to providing one-to-one for all learners K-12. We created a district, a WASD reopening plan, and each individual school also created a unique plan based on their school. We trained all WASD personnel in COVID protocols, and we provided professional development for online learning. In addition, based on the family surveys, we created for our families 3 options: traditional, hybrid, WASD cyber through Franklin Virtual Academy, and Apex Learning. We also identified hybrid learning teachers K-8 for the hybrid learning model, and WASHES uses the Apex Learning with teachers of record. And we're also now in the process of continuing to provide hotspots or internet services to families in need. To date, Our overall school population is 4,224 learners. Right now, we have 3,259 of our learners coming to school on a regular basis. In other words, that is our students face-to-face in the classrooms. At this point, between K-12, hybrid, as well as cyber, we have 965 learners. And as Mr. Holtzman continues to update us on the cyber school options, we are now up to 252. We were at 197 in June of 2020 for a total cost of $2.9 million for outside cyber. Where do we go from here? We are very hopeful that our WASD hybrid K-8 is a bridge to returning to the traditional classroom. We're coming up on October conferences, and I have drafted a letter to go out to all hybrid families, indicating that they will be having conferences and that, you know, this may be a time to entertain the idea of returning if they're feeling comfortable. We're also hopeful that learners who have elected to go to a hybrid option outside the district would consider returning. We do have a core team that is now working on developing our own our own cyber school for 2020, 21, 22. And we're obviously continuously to prepare our teachers to be prepared to go virtual if necessary. And just as a final quote, you know, we're committed to being responsive to the needs of our learners. We need to provide different learning options, not just due to the pandemic, but as a continuation as we build first choice at WASD. And then I just ended with the video that was from the beginning of the year. We don't have to watch the video because I think we've all seen the video. So thank you very much. I just thought it was important to provide an update. Most of this information is in your Friday folders, but the Rotary, it was well received today. They had a lot of great questions, and I do want to thank our principals, faculty, staff for all their work and effort as we're continuing to build first choice at WASD. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is good to see those numbers, at least for me. I appreciate seeing where we are with who's going where. So thank you. Okay, that's it for presentations. On to regular business. And since we've already covered the first three, we are on to personnel, Dr. Sternheim.
I'd like to direct your attention to two personnel items in the board docs. We have resignation of support staff, requests for leaves, building transfer, appointment of substitute support staff, appointments of technology support, and appointments of game personnel. And in addition, there's another personnel listing where we have additional resignation of support staff, resignation of extracurricular staff, resignation of coaching staff, additional requests for leaves, appointments of coaching staff, and appointments of support staff. So recommendation is to approve as listed.
You have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Questions for Dr. Sternheim? Okay, if not, all those in favor of approving personnel, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, now on to the ever-changing athletic venue protocols. So I guess, Dr. Klein, do you want to start? Mr. Macklin can fill in if he needs to or wants to.
Yeah, what you have here before you is a plan to reopen athletics to spectators and how we're going to handle athletics as we move forward. We do have a plan in place already, but this is to help open up for spectators, for families to attend our athletic events for our students. And if you haven't been aware and you haven't been watching the whole ordeal and the drama, as we know, a court overturned what was going on with the governor as far as what is the restrictions he put in place. The governor put a stay on, and as of 3 o'clock today, I received the opinion of the court from our solicitor that it was denied. So we can open up our fields and spectators, and we have a plan for that. We were hoping that if it went a certain way, we'd be ready to do that. So, Mr. McWam, you want to give a brief overview of where we're going? And he's done a very good job planning this.
Again, this was all based on like House Bill 2787, passed through the House, passed through the Senate. The Governor Wolf vetoed it after 10 days, and now it's going back. But in the meantime, there was the constitutional amendment that they had in Pittsburgh, and that was today. I got word from Dr. Klein that was denied. So I just called them 3 times to make sure that we were correct and that it was effective for us. But still moving forward, I think we need to be cautious about how we go forward. You know, and the biggest factor is varsity football. And the other factor is going to be volleyball. I mean, for volleyball, they had us at 25 people for volleyball. And so once you get the players on the court and the officials and the coaches, we're up to 20. And so we'd have 2 people. We already had plans to have people in the hallways that we could substitute in and out. So thank God for volleyball, because our gym capacity is over 2,600. So we can spread people out, and I don't think that'll be an issue. For all other sports, looking at our numbers, we were pretty good within the 250 on a regular basis, except when we had like a senior night or something along those lines. But for varsity football, it varies depending on the weather, depending on who we're playing, depending on what. We've had upwards of 9,000 people inside our stadium. Our seating capacity is 4,640, and that's based off of a 20-inch seat for home and away. Together combined is 4,640. So my proposal was, if we got to this point, was to go at 25% of our seating capacity, which would be, let me see. I just want to make sure I get my numbers right, because I had it for 50. It would be 710 on the home side and then 450 on the visiting side with seating capacity. And that doesn't take anything into the area where people always hang around and our middle school kids go in the back and do that. So we're just looking at the seating capacity. So what we want to do with that is we want to make sure that we get our parents into the venues. So with, you know, our parents, band parents, and then also our cheer parents, that's going to put us up to a spectator capacity of 400 people. That's not counting the players or people on the field. So we're at 400 to start with. So subtract that off of our 1160, which would be 25% of the 4640. Then we're looking at, we have 760 people that can come in that aren't parents, that aren't members of the band, because we have to count for the band being in the stands, that aren't members of the band. So that leaves with 760 tickets. And again, each district is doing things a little bit different. Some districts are, you know, no fans from visiting teams. You know, they can have 1 parent ticket or whatever the case. I would say for our first trial run here, if we're at 25%, that we keep it at no fans from visiting teams. I would like to do pre-sale tickets so we can get a head count and offer those to our students first, so they have the option to buy those tickets. And then we can offer it to the public after that, and then we can open up the gates. And once we hit our magic number of 1160, then we just shut it down. And in this proposal, I also put forward, if we're able to handle that pretty well, and if we feel that everything is going according to plan, that if Dr. Klein and I and whoever, anyone else involved wants to sit down and talk about maybe opening up to more fans, and we don't necessarily have to go to 50% capacity. We could say, you know, we could handle another 300 people pretty easily. Then maybe, you know, if we could open up to a visiting parents, something along those lines. With this, you know, we're also going to have, you know, I'll put signage up throughout the facility, which gives us sovereignty, so to speak. But we are going to require everyone to have masks on the entire time, whether they're sitting, whether it's going to be too hard to police saying, all right, well, you're 6 feet apart, well, you're 5 feet apart, you need to have your mask on. So we're just going to make sure that everyone is masked up. And we've had a couple scrimmages in the facility where we have been under our 250 count, and everyone's been pretty compliant with the mask. So they kind of get it. So that's kind of the direction that we want to go. Well, that is the direction we want to go at this point. And then again, almost reassessing after each game. We only have 4 home games at this point, with the season being shortened. The first one is this Friday against Shippensburg. So it's going to be it'll be a pretty busy day. So is there any questions about anything?
How about spacing people out in the stands?
I mean, obviously our band, I'm going to have them spaced out, in the stands, but if it's a family of 4 and they want to sit together, I guess.
Right, but I'm saying, a small group versus 30 people all sitting together. You're gonna try to keep them spread. Or you're going to make, like you said, your numbers, you're going to have like 700 on one side and 400 on the other.
Well, that's what we have. So I was thinking about putting the students on the other side.
Okay.
And just kind of have them spread out through that entire area over there. And then I'll have the band, on that one side of the bleachers kind of spread out a little bit. And a lot of it's going to be we'll see, because we'll still get the people that want to hang around the fence. They're not all going to be sitting in the stands. So we're just kind of police this first one and see how it goes and try to make best with the situation with the hand we're dealt.
Okay, and I'm sorry, maybe you did say this about the parents. The parents have the priorities.
Well, the parents, I'm going to have them on the pass list. So even if, say, a parent is late coming to work, we're not going to sell their ticket on them. So we'll have that allotment for that.
So last year, I think we instituted the policy that required if you were 8th grade or younger, you had to
Have a
enter
parent.
and stay with your parent.
That's
So
correct.
when you talk about selling student tickets, we're selling?
And that was the other thing. I mean, do we want to because normally student tickets are $3, adult tickets are $4 or $5. But the only other question that we had is, part of the CBA is that staff members get in free with their badge. But, if we open it up and we're sold out, we're sold out. I mean, that's my opinion, but I don't
So
know.
if a staff member comes and they're number 520,
They're number 520, they're good to go.
right?
But
after the number's over, then
But
it's
once
over.
we hit that 760 mark, which includes the 400 that we have of people in there, then we're not letting anybody in.
Are you planning on pre-selling them for Friday?
I'm gonna try, because obviously Wednesday we're virtual, so Thursday I'm gonna offer them up to students, and Friday I'll offer them up to students. I don't know that I can really offer them out to the public at that point. It'd be kind of hard to get people coming into our building to buy a ticket. I don't know, thoughts on that?
Do we have anything set up that you can do online, ticket purchasing?
Currently, I do not know.
Yeah.
Are the parents getting tickets? Are you
The
gonna
parents,
send
we're
them
going to
out?
have them on it. We'll have them on a pass list, and they'll have to show their ID when they come in. So we have their names on a pass list. Yes.
Is that something we should think about? Is online
Yes,
purchase?
I think it would be especially if this is a trend that we're going to continue with. Yes. And there's a couple avenues that we can do that through.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple out there. I know Renfrew does that now. The Chamber does that.
There's
Wayback has done that.
And there's some other schools that are doing it, and you sell it. You can sell them. Say it's a $5 ticket, and they'll take a $1.50 surcharge, but you still get your $5. So it costs them $6.50 to buy an online ticket or something along those lines, or whatever the case may be.
So can I clarify, the ticket sale for the students is just at the senior high school?
I'm going to do it at the senior high school. Yeah.
I think it should just be.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there's no concession stand?
I don't believe, I've been reading so many laws lately. I don't believe that we're able to pull off a concession stand and keep it within the CDC guidelines at this point. And I have been in contact with the band concession people and just said, look, at this point, I think we're just going to kind of forego our concession stands at this point in time.
We're gonna have to do some other fundraising then.
Yeah.
Well, and I know Mr. McElwain has various plans that he has all set, and I appreciate the work that you put into developing them extensively. So we just happen to be at this one, which I would hope a lot of people would be happy about. And we'll see how it goes.
And I was holding off on doing, because normally I do a parent conference, a parent meeting. I was holding off on doing my parent video, and I just went through the whole 250 and 25 and I apologize and all this. So I have to change that up, but that's okay.
As of what, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock?
As
whatever
of,
time
yeah.
it was.
So.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to vote on
I
this?
think you should approve it.
Okay, we have a motion?
Move to approve
Second.
Okay, any other comments or questions before we vote? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Next, update on the school calendar.
Okay,
I don't know who that is.
that's me.
Okay,
So I went through, in the past, we have had early dismissal days as a means to accommodate, time for teachers to work on data analysis and to get additional professional development time. And when we moved to the remote Wednesdays, the only early dismissal days that remained were the ones that were already scheduled at Thanksgiving and at the Christmas holiday. So at this point, I was going to reintroduce the idea of early dismissal days, putting them back in the 2020-21 calendar, in light of the fact that we already had in-service time in October, November, and December. I had elected to only add one early dismissal, and that would, and again, in the past, they've been on Thursdays, but then I'm trying to be consistent with families that it's a Wednesday. So I went back. I did share some of this, obviously, with my building principals and got some feedback. I have several early dismissal days in the calendar. I'm not sure the position moving forward with remote Wednesdays. So I just wanted to make recommendations for early dismissals. But if we want to do the one in October and then revisit again in January, otherwise, if you look through the calendar, the dates that I was recommending were October 21st. And then we already had an early dismissal date, which is not related to our professional development, in November. And then another one in December, not related to professional development, but part of the holiday break. I added an additional one on January 27th, one on February 24th, one in March, which is March 17th. So those are the additional days that we did run the hours with Mrs. Kuzer to make sure that we had enough hours in order to accommodate. Actually, when I looked at this again, I realized that the March date, again, trying to be consistent with the Wednesday, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have an early dismissal, then come back to school and then do a remote learning day.
No.
So I think that's a little problematic. So I don't know if we want to look at making that into the Thursday then, as opposed to this 17th, which is on that Wednesday. So this is just for, I mean, we can review it, we can come back to it. I just know that we have appreciated the ability to have early dismissal times in the past for data analysis and professional development, and I would like to continue those. This is just my proposal at this point. Questions?
okay, so do we want to look at approving this, or would everybody rather wait?
Well, I think we should change, if we're going to approve it, we need to change the March day.
April, oh, is it March then?
March 17th is trying to be consistent
Okay.
with
Yeah.
the Wednesday, but then it's a Wednesday.
How about the 24th? That's after the,
marking period? Yeah,
Yeah.
we can look at the 24th.
Can you remind me what these remote learning days are for?
Dr. Klein had purposely put them in our calendar. We had them approved, I believe, in August as a means to essentially be prepared or to implement the remote learning day process throughout the school year. But we've already had some practice now because we've now done, done it on Wednesday. So the expectation is that the students would be at home, but the teachers will still be in school providing the education in that format.
And we hope that in the future, we'll be able to
Right.
next year apply for those remote learning days, that if we have a snow day, we can do it on the makeup days, or we can do it on those snow days if we know ahead of time.
So we did not for this year.
No, we want to make sure that we can do it. And that's kind of why we planned ahead before we get that approved.
So could you not just move that Wednesday to Thursday?
That's what I initially suggested.
Okay.
I was just recognizing that Mrs. Bakto had indicated we could just do the 24th as well. So, I mean, I I feel from a parental perspective, we do need to give them a heads up in preparation. You know, at this point, the only one this fall that I'm adding is the October 21st. So if we want to just approve that date and revisit this, I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, but you know, I want to keep.
So you want to approve this as is, or you want to move the March one? I'm sorry, it's really hard to hear you.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I pointed out to the board that I did see the error in proposing that March date. So I mean, ultimately, if the board would like to approve all these dates, that's fine. We can change the March date to the 18th or the 24th, or we could also simply approve the early dismissal in October and then revisit this at a later date. But I know we don't want to keep talking about the calendar. Aaron wants to stop talking about the calendar because we're calculating hours and days all the time.
Okay. I'll move to approve moving the date into the 18th. As is moving the March date to the 18th. That makes sense before remote learning day to do that, I think.
Okay, wait, I'll make a, even this is technically not in right order. Q is the end of the quarter, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I would think the teachers would prefer to have the day in school and then have, you know, and have it after, which I don't know if that's what Bonnie was thinking.
I was just thinking
But I
keeping
mean,
it on a
whatever the
Wednesday.
majority
Parents are
wants.
used to Wednesdays.
I'm
having
just
to
thinking
get-
if I had tests or something to wrap stuff up, I'd rather have the kids in school a couple days before the end of the quarter, but that's just me.
So that would be the 24th, Mrs. Harold, is that?
Just what I'm thinking, yeah. But what's everybody else think or care?
I was just thinking if it's a remote learning day that, and it's an early dismissal, that might give parents a chance. You can travel if you're doing remote learning.
Yeah, normally
That's true.
I would agree. It's just the where it lies in the quarter.
Well, I mean, you could also move that remote, or that's already been, you could remove that remote learning
Well,
day.
Yeah, it's been approved. It's been approved by the, we'll have to get reapproved, I believe, from the state of when it is. It seems silly to have to do it when, because they've approved the number of them. But
Right.
they've also approved the calendar itself. We just have to go back and get it reapproved. I don't see them not doing it because everybody around us is doing every day remotely. So why would they turn us down? You know?
Well, that why do we have a possible snow day right before the end of the quarter? So I guess they could grade, you know. and get
Yeah,
that done.
in the past, we've
that what
always,
that's what
well,
that's
that's
about?
an option, but we've
Okay.
always tried to provide a little bit of a break during the month of March. Now
Okay.
that's a possible, so that may or may not be day in session. So what could possibly happen, they'd have the remote learning day, and then they would have to come to school, or they might have they might be off on Monday, then come on Tuesday, then do an early dismissal. So
I'm just thinking, it's
That
just,
doesn't
again,
work
you-
either.
if you have makeup work and kids that have to get stuff in and they're not in the building, you're kind of stuck with ending the quarter when you don't have all their assignments. done.
Sure. Well, they would be in the building. They would be there the 17th. They would be there half the day on the 18th. They'd have the remote learning day, which they would have to continue the learning process, and then they may or may not be off on that Monday.
Right. I mean, I get it. I'm just saying my own preference, but whatever everybody wants is fine. Anybody else want to chime in? Okay, so we're waiting then. Dr. Royer is suggesting that we move it to the 18th. We need a second if that's going to be the choice.
I'll second.
Anybody else? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Next item. Okay, next are job descriptions.
Thank you. What you have in the board docs is a series of job descriptions. These are also provided in the Friday folder. The first one is the Instructional Technology Specialist, which is a grant-funded position utilizing Title I money. What we talked about is the importance of the fact that we've done so much from a one-to-one basis and relying on technology, that this individual would be a person who obviously has the technology skills, but also has some type of educational background to be able to assist teachers with all the different platforms that we're using and means that and all the technology that we're using at this point with our learners. And we also have, we had already posted the position for the First Choice Learning Network Coordinator. And we had talked at the last board meeting about the possibility of creating 2 additional assistant type positions, recognizing that the ability to pull this off across the district K to 12 has been a tremendous group effort, and there have been individuals that have assisted at every level. So again, that would be a stipend position for a period of time. I believe, Dr. Klein, for 1 year at this point, and as we continue to build our First Choice Learning Networks. So they're job descriptions, and from these job descriptions, at least 3 of them then would be posted as job postings.
Are these full-time, part-time teachers? I mean,
They'd be administrative.
these are administrative positions.
These are
All 4?
No, the instructional technology specialist is a teacher / technology type individuals. That would be a position for 1 year.
Is that in Nick's department?
It would fall under Nick, but it would also fall under building principals.
But it's not a teacher necessarily.
It does not have to be a teacher. We have written, I believe on the bottom of the job description, we talked about having a technology background and some type of educational background. We have bachelor's degree in computer science, elementary, secondary education, or equivalent combination of post-secondary training experience in the computer-related field.
What's the salary for that?
We have yet to determine that. So right now, Mr. Erickson is conducting interviews for his vacancy. So that's something I need to continue to have conversation with the board as well as Dr. Klein. We have Title I funding in order to facilitate that, but obviously if it's a teacher type position, you may be looking at a higher salary as opposed to someone who's coming, with a strictly technology background.
That was my question, Dr. Sternheim. We have several teachers in the district with instructional technology degrees.
Mhm.
So they could do this for 1 year?
They could. I think my concern is that, at least I've heard in the past, that there's a real reluctance to jump ship for a position for 1 year. So, I mean, if we open it up, there's obviously that possibility, because there have been individuals who've served in this capacity in the past.
Okay.
But where my vision is it would be someone that would really mesh well within the teaching aspect as well as within Nick's department, that they would be able to work side by side.
So that one is not, and then the other 3 are administrative.
The other 3 are administrative, that is correct. And the
So
other 3 are
one's a middle
stipend.
school administrator, one's an elementary administrator,
Yeah,
and then what's the other one?
is the coordinator.
The coordinator.
And that could be any administrator.
It could be any administrator. We are, very much aware that the face of public education is going to look different. And so what we're trying to do is be proactive and trying to, be able to create and continue to work on creating the learning networks here in Waynesboro to be able to accommodate all our learners. In other words, I'm very proud of what we have at this point, but we have a lot of work to do.
Okay, so we would be approving these then without salary or stipend numbers yet. It was just the establishing of these positions, correct? Okay. All right, do we have a motion on this?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Okay, further questions or comments?
My only comment would be that these, since it's so new, that it's subject to change, that these job descriptions may not be written in stone.
They'll be
You
good for
somehow
1
could,
year.
it's
It-
work in progress.
And that's
None
a
of them
good
could
point.
be exactly,
Yeah,
they
could be different in a year and a half.
Right.
Completely different. And we
The word is fluid.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fluid.
Fluid.
That's the
The
word
new
fluid.
buzzword.
Everything's
Fluid.
fluid.
Yes.
Everybody's fluid.
But I will tell you, I believe you've already approved, I believe, the coordinator position at $5,000, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Now,
did.
the other 2, what I'm actually recommending, the assistants to help feed that information to that coordinator. I'm suggesting that those stipends be $1,000 each. So I apologize not jumping in there in time.
So that'll be on the posting then?
Yeah. And if they can adjust, if you need to adjust the motion, you can, but that's what I'm recommending.
Okay, other questions or comments? All right, then we have the motion and the second. All those in favor of approving these job descriptions, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. First reading of policies.
Okay. We have several, as was said about the policy committee, we've come a long way this year and last year with that committee, getting a number of these policies in front of you and keeping current. But you can see there are several of them for first reading that were moved on, and I'll just read them. Volunteers, live streaming video, educational field trips, or some minor changes there, trauma-informed approach, things that we're committing to do, and pandemic management, which is another thing that was recommended to make changes for and add that to our policy manual.
You want to highlight the changes that you do anybody
Boy,
remember? Are they significant or that they should be pointed out? Or
trying to remember. I think, did we bold them? I believe. Yeah, we bolded the changes.
Yes. Some of them have several changes, others have few.
There's so many, I don't remember.
I'm just looking at I looked at it earlier and I didn't see any bold.
Yeah, with the volunteers, most of it's definitions, number of changes that were through there, plus citations of other policies. And
So is this an existing policy?
I believe the volunteers, I don't think that's new. I believe we had
Because the
that.
date's not on here,
Oh, okay.
like
Well,
the
then-
date of the other, of when it's being revised from.
Okay. Well, we'll double check, but it may, unless it fell under another policy, but I thought we had a policy or at least covered a volunteer.
I don't think it's new.
I was gonna think, I thought it was like administrative guidelines that we had. And I know we have a volunteer handbook that we're also going to be sharing. At this point, we're not accepting volunteers in the school. So
Right.
I'm looking for if there was an existing policy. I know this came about with a lot of conversations with Kathy McCool about expectations and being able to do a better job at identifying volunteers by defining them differently, as opposed to saying a volunteer is a volunteer. So it's almost like a tiered process.
So are you gonna do, I'm sorry.
No.
I was thinking that probably as part of this policy should be the form that you're gonna ask parents. It says in here, you're gonna have parents sign off that they got a copy of this policy.
Yes, we have a volunteer handbook. I can put that in the Friday folder for the review.
And we can attach it. It's first reading.
Yeah,
So we
right.
can attach that for the next time.
So you think we didn't have one before?
I'm looking for it, Dr. Royer. I know.
It would be the same number.
Yeah.
Oh, Cindy said it's new, okay.
It's new.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think we had.
We-
I think individual schools might have had something back. I could be wrong. For volunteers.
It says 9/16. Do we have one? No.
Okay.
I think
Well-
we had administrative guidelines, and it's more or less, most of the time it's in elementary, more common in the elementary level. So, I mean, obviously they had to have clearances, and we went through that process
So these are all new. Like,
These are all first reading.
I mean, I think, are they all new?
I thought we had
Educational field trips
No,
is not.
educational trips has been kicked around. But the
It's-
other ones are new.
I
We
think
hadn't
they're-
approved an educational field trip, have we? Have we approved an educational field trip?
This
That's
is
new.
just
We had?
updated.
We had an old one?
We have.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just updating.
we we had a section, I think, in attendance that
Right.
dealt with educational field trips, and now we're creating a separate one just for educational field trips. We've been working on this for a year now, so.
So it is new. It's a new policy
Yeah.
number.
Mhm.
Okay. So,
It comes from 204. I believe.
right, so it's right, okay. So, Reed, I have a question on educational trips when we get there.
Okay.
Are we there? So I feel like I'm missing something on the makeup work.
Okay.
And I just might be, it says that there'll be, after students return, makeup work must be submitted within a time frame equivalent to the number of school days approved for the trip. And then it says for a two-day trip, you get 4 days for makeup.
So it's 2 days, like for every 1 day, you get 2 days to make up.
Is that consistent across the district?
Yes.
Okay, that might be a little unclear to parents.
Okay, I think it's been in our handbook, but yeah, that's something we can definitely work at clarifying.
Just a sentence, do you know what I mean? If
Yeah.
it's a new parent, they may not understand it. Do you know what I mean? Actually, I had forgotten.
Try to make that consistent.
Yes.
I think it's great, but maybe just say in here, per district guidelines, makeups, you get 2 days of makeup for 1 day out. Does that make sense?
Sure. Okay, sure. And
Otherwise
like,
it'll
and
feel
right
like
now,
that.
to be completely honest, we're working through some of that, and it's a very unique situation right now. If students have been excluded due to exposure and they're able to continue their work at home, the expectation is that they are working and that day is counted as being present.
Right, gotcha.
So we've been working, we're balancing a lot at this point, but, you know, we definitely think that, you know, if a student's capable of doing the work and doing it at home, you know, we are signing it, we're supporting them, and then they're getting credit for the day. Because if they're being excluded because we're requiring them to be excluded.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's been a little bit of a challenge with attendance this year.
I'll move to approve.
And that is this. That one's up for second reading, the attendance, the 204.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Second reading policies.
Okay, so these are ones ready for approval. Non-school organizations, groups, and individuals. There are some minor. I think we had some minor change. Honestly, it's been so long since we've done it. Everything's changed. I believe in bold that we have. It's basically talking about materials and things that we would have available as, for example, the board requires that non-school organizations, groups, or individuals who wish to distribute or post non-school materials on school property shall submit them to the building principal. The building principal shall inform the superintendent or designee of requests received from non-school organizations, groups, and individuals. I think it's kind of how it's always worked, but it is in writing there, and a little clearer writing. Again, there are some minor changes, but most of it I think is clarification what I saw. And if you look at the next one, use of facilities, I believe, we added a pricing change, I believe?
We added a change to the description for B2 for coaches who are running clinics in the summertime.
And then we updated the tobacco and vaping for employees and tobacco and vaping for students. Again, more clarification and updating. And then there were some attendance, I think, that came through recommendations of the principals or through our attendance committee, I believe. With the attendance, if I remember right, Mr. Taylor, I think you were part of making the changes here.
For the attendance policy?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was the question, sorry?
I was just going to kind of highlight what changes we were recommending. There are a number of changes in the, a number of bolded areas, but I'm trying to remember what the specific thing we wanted to change.
One of them is the doctor's note. I believe it's in there after the 3 consecutive days. So
Okay.
I believe that's one of the significant changes in there.
I think we also had to change the compulsory school age to match the law, but but there are some minor clarifications in there. Other than that, I think that's it.
I do want to clarify because it would be a change and it may create some issues with our learners and our families that within the student tobacco and vaping products, it does now give authority to confiscate and destroy the electronic cigarettes or juuling or and that's a point of contention because oftentimes parents will ask to have the items returned. Some of these items can be very costly, so don't bring them to school. So.
They brought him to
I'll
school.
move to approve.
Second.
Any other questions about these policies? Because this is the second reading, so these will be in. All right, if not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, approved. Business issues, Mr. Holtzman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We have normal bills for payment for general fund and cafeteria as well as purchase orders. We have the normal kind of year-to-date summary as to where we're at with expenses and revenues that we provide at the second meeting each month. And then we also have 2 property assessment changes, and those were done by the assessment board in Franklin County.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Holtzman? Do we have a motion to approve bills for payment?
Move to approve.
Purchase?
Second.
Okay. No other questions then? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we only did number 1. Did you talk about?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Did you
did
talk,
cover
did
all
you talk
3.
about the expense? Oh, you talked about the property assessments. Yeah,
I
that was
did.
all.
I'm sorry. I
Okay, yeah.
apologize.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, then on to Clayton Cabinet comments.
I just appreciate the policy committee and the work they're doing to update and keep our policies updated. They always have a lot of homework because there's always a lot of new ones coming along just about every month. So I appreciate that they're keeping those updated.
Anybody else?
Just want to mention that we had a meeting with Renfrew, I believe it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. With our school plan at this point, we are not going on field trips. And Renfrew was able to secure a donation. And so they're in the process of developing on-site educational opportunities for elementary students at school with the Renfrew Institute following their COVID protocols, and our students would be able to participate there at school. We are exploring the option of allowing our middle school students, because they'll be able to walk to Renfrew, to participate in the wetlands field trip that they actually paid for last year and didn't get an opportunity to go. So we're appreciative of the partnership. We're appreciative of the generous donation from an individual within our community to be able to pay for this opportunity for elementary students. And so looking forward to, as they navigate through looking at the curriculum and planning strategically on site at our elementary schools, and then for the middle school students to walk to Renfrew for that experience. They have limited rotations, and it's going to be a smaller group of students. So it's just slowly navigating through this process, but very thankful for those opportunities for our learners.
And I believe all of the activities will be environmental. There will not be any historical this year.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
They've asked for all our science curriculum and going to make sure that is completely aligned.
Okay. Yeah. Appreciate the Institute and the work that they do with our kids. Other comments?
This is Harold.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to let the board know also, I did receive word today that all of our bandwidth upgrades and so forth, USAC is reopening our E-rate window. So I will be able to submit for those increased bandwidth costs, so we can get a discount of 60% on that. So that'll provide some savings to the district. And also, I did receive all of the hotspots to place throughout our community for student use and so forth. So currently right now I have 2 locations for those. So I am looking for other locations. So if anybody has any ideas, we're open to those ideas. I have 18 more to place around.
Okay.
And I wanted to thank the board for all of the support and everything like that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Erickson. Back to you, Dr. Sternheim.
No, I was just going to say on a somewhat related note, the Wayback Foundation is collecting donations for youth-size masks. And so we did receive several the other day. So, and they're just been directed to drop them off here at Clayton Avenue, and we can provide a tax donation letter. We seem to be, again, very, very pleased with our students' compliance, but for our little ones, the typical masks don't always necessarily work. So we are taking donations. So thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Not from Clayton. Any board comments? No board comments?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Just out of sheer curiosity, what's the percentage of students who show up with a mask as opposed to the percentage of masks that we hand out every day? And any?
They shows up their own personal mask.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. We may have 2 or 3 students a day.
Wow.
It's very good.
That's good.
That's why we're still in school.
That's why we're still in school. All right. That's very good news. Thank you. Thank you.
We've been trying to call home and letting the family know, hey, we provided a mask today. Don't forget to put a stare in the book bag in case they forget next time.
But I think it's an amazingly positive sign that the numbers are that low. I think it's a testament to our policy and to our plan. I really do.
I think I'm brave enough to talk now. I would just like, are you the principal at the middle school?
That's correct.
Okay. Now that I'm retired, I've been the person picking up my grandson. He just started 6th grade. From day one, I mean, it has been smooth as clockwork. I mean, I go, my daughter told me to try to get there by 10 after 2 so that I'm not real far back, and I'm normally right along the sidewalk. The kids that go over to the high school, I guess, to get the buses,
Correct.
they go out first, and then the car riders. Philip finds me, and it has just gone very smoothly. I have been very impressed by how it has run at the middle school. Can't speak for any of the other schools, but middle school is doing great.
Great. Good to know.
Dr. Klein, could we introduce all the administrators to?
Sure. Dr. Diane McCallum,
I met some of you.
Okay.
Diane Everhart, and Aaron Taylor.
Okay.
And Karen Davis is a math teacher.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Cherie's on.
And we're Facebook friends.
Cherie-
Her for a while.
Cherie Sullivan is on, and Eric, or Mr. Erickson is over here on, Nick, it's over here on the right.
Okay.
He's our technology, and Mrs. Sullivan is head of student services.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. Would you like to say anything, Mrs. Davis, as public comment to end this evening? You're it. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Pappas is on the phone. I just saw
Mr.
that.
Pappas is
Oh,
here.
you can't see him now. So.
He was getting kicked off frequently. I kept
Oh,
getting
was he?
text messages that he got kicked off.
Hello, yeah, I'm here. Sorry. Hello.
Mr. Pappas says less than 1% of students show up without masks. Was that,
Yes.
is that correct, Mr. Pappas?
Yes, correct.
Great.
That's pretty good.
Okay, we will be going into an executive session, but we will not be coming back. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.